Welcome, everyone, to our first ever episode of the Fashion Situation Room, a podcast from the front lines of the fashion industry where we offer real talk that explores the four S's: strategies, solutions, sustainability, and storytelling. All of it aimed to provide you with actionable insights that ideally will benefit you somehow. I'm your host, Michael Jordan. No, not that Michael Jordan. My background is as a foreign correspondent, global communications specialist, and nowadays I also focus on fashion sustainability storytelling. These are my two co-hosts, Brita Cabanos and Peter McLaughlin. Brita, go ahead, please introduce
Yes,
yourself.
hello, Michael and Peter and everyone listening. My name is Britta Cabanos, and I am the founder of Inside Fashion Design and the Conscious Fashion Design Academy. I founded those, really started in 2017 when I had been in the industry for many, many years, and I found a lot of people coming to me just asking for career advice or behind the scenes stories. And I enjoy writing and photography, and so I launched as a website, and since 2017 has evolved into online education, resources, industry insights, inspirations, workshops, events. So we keep evolving and adding to our program and offering readers and our audience a place to go to find help and support and guidance, career advice, even including mental wellness, because that's so important these days. So really expanding and building a global resource hub for the fashion design industry.
As I describe, Brita, I say that you're on the front lines of conscious
Mm.
fashion education. And Peter, go ahead, tell us a little something about yourself, please.
Hi everyone. My name's Peter McLaughlin. I'm originally from Belfast in Northern Ireland. I'm a sustainability strategist and former design director with a global career from working in Milan for Versace, Krizia, in Amsterdam for Tommy Hilfiger, and here in New York, where I currently am, for Ellie Tahari, Jennifer Lopez, and Ellen DeGeneres. I got a master's in sustainability from Harvard during the pandemic, where I like to mix the deep roots of the fashion industry, leading teams, building brands across Europe, Asia, and the US. So I bring a creative, cross-functional approach to design, innovation, and strategy. And so ultimately, I really just love to work with brands and help them make better decisions.
And especially compared with my colleagues here, I'm the one with the least amount of fashion experience. My background, as I mentioned, is primarily in journalism. I was a foreign correspondent for 20 years, reporting from 30 different countries. I've been fortunate enough to have lived in Europe, Africa, and Asia. And now having evolved into global brand communications, media strategy, media relations, and as I said, fashion sustainability storytelling. And so while we know that there's a wide range of fashion podcasts already out there, already contributing value, what we believe will distinguish our podcast is how is our perspective, our unique trio of historical perspectives over the past 3 decades or so. We don't need to get into how old exactly we are. But in addition to sharing our perspectives, keeping our finger on the pulse of the fashion industry, talking about some of the hot button issues of the day, we will also have unique guests, one guest per episode who's on the front lines of some unique aspect of the industry, and they will not only provide us with their own analysis and observations from what they see on the ground, but also some real life stories, storytelling, evidence-driven examples to really illuminate some of the challenges that we'll be exploring as a team, right? Let me ask you before I move on. Anything else that I miss that our podcast will be covering?
Yeah, I think you've covered it. And like Michael mentioned, talking about strategy and solutions too, because there's so much talk out there on what needs to be done, but how do we really solve the issues or work towards, making improvements? So I think we're going to hopefully our aim is to really offer some call to action with folks where or give ideas and suggestions on how we can take those steps to make a better impact and solve some of those problems that we need solutions for.
Yes, and I think that one of the key things that we bring to the table that maybe is that we're taking it from a business perspective. So it isn't just focusing on sustainability, but it's really solutions and strategies for businesses, by businesses, to help businesses make those better decisions.
Hmm.
And I should say that I can't guarantee that we'll produce definitive solutions to some of these challenges, that we will always strive to be evidence driven. That
Hmm.
showing on screen, for example, some of our own research, pointing to some of the most important studies of the day or leading articles. We even have a few to show you in a few minutes from Forbes, from Vogue, from others. And so we'll always try to show you where where our facts and evidence are coming from so we can all make the most informed possible decisions.
Yeah, I'll add in another thing is that
Ah,
this is also for consumers that are just interested about the fashion, the state of fashion. So if you're a fashion, love fashion, want to learn about fashion, it's a great place. Or just a customer who enjoys fashion, this is also hopefully will provide a lot of information as a consumer and customers of fashion on how you can also affect what happens by where you spend your money and brands you support. So looking at it from both behind the scenes within the industry and as a consumer perspective.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's really what's going on from a business perspective, but also that will inevitably affect consumers, how
Mm,
they purchase, why they purchase, and really what products are available to them.
exactly.
that's that's right. And I do want to also say we touched a little bit on the audience. You know, we do see us see this podcast as trying to reach a fairly wide audience, anyone curious about these issues, but including fashion students and
Students.
those who
Mhm.
have recently entered the industry with their startup companies, for example, startup brands. Those who are working for larger operations and want to understand some of these issues more clearly. So anyone curious and interested who wants to learn a little more within our 45-minute to 60-minute podcast, always aiming to deliver at least one, two, three things of value to you that you can even apply to your operation moving forward. Actionable insights, that sort of thing, right?
Exactly.
Great point.
And plus, the added benefit is that the three of us are friends. In fact, let me just explain how the three of us, despite our disparate and diverse backgrounds, how we met. I first met Peter a little more than 3 years ago online during COVID. He was volunteering for a large nonprofit based in France and Geneva, Switzerland, right? An
Yeah.
international organization focused on aid and assistance for NGOs, the nonprofit world. And so I offered a training in SDG, Sustainable Development Goals storytelling and sustainability storytelling, how nonprofits can prove their results, prove their impact, more than just words, how to support that with evidence, folded into real life stories, storytelling to bring to life challenges nonprofits face on the ground around the world. And then Peter, as a member of that organization, then organized a second such session. Maybe at some point we'll show links to that training, that webinar that we had on sustainability storytelling. So then we had met a few years ago, right? And Peter and I then agreed that we got along so well. And plus, I'm in Manhattan, he's in Brooklyn, or you were in Brooklyn at the time, now also in Manhattan. And then it was a year and a half. So we agreed to somehow cooperate in this
You
fashion
stayed friends.
and friends and colleagues. And then a year and a half ago, I met Britta during New York Fashion Week, September 2024,
Mhm.
right? At an
Yeah.
event. You are hosted, as you know, you're headquartered in Portland, but you're often here in New York. In fact, you were just here for a few weeks for now we're recording. It was February 2026 New York Fashion Week. In case this is ever in the archives in a time
Yep.
capsule. Let's
Which
remember
is
when
still
we
coming up
recorded.
next week. Yeah.
That's right. And so you're here for every New York Fashion Week, right? Twice a year, often hosting your own events, very actively involved. And so I met you at one of your events. And what do you recall about how we met, Brita?
Yeah, I love this story because we met briefly. I was hosting the event and running around, making sure everything was running smoothly. And I met you very briefly through Siamanda, our mutual friend.
Mhm.
But what happened after is that I posted something on LinkedIn about the event, and we had these amazing lineup of speakers. It was all around sustainability, had some key industry players that are working in that space share their stories. And then afterwards, after I'd posted on LinkedIn, you made a comment and you said, okay, this all sounds great. And the event was great. The speakers were great, but show me the proof.
Show me the proof.
Yep. And that really, at first I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't sure if I should be offended
What a
or
jerk.
should I, is he being a jerk or is he really, so I gave it some thought and I'm like, absolutely, you were 100% right. We talk about sustainability all day long
And conscious fashion,
in
right?
conscious fashion, but where's the data? You were saying, show me the data of what these people, they say they're doing these things, but where's the results? Even if they hadn't reached that final goal, what progress are they making? So I had reached out and replied to your comment, and I think I said something to that effect, like, you're absolutely right. And how do we do that? And we started this dialogue of proving your impact, finding the data, sharing the data so that it's evidence driven, keywords I've learned from you. And now I look through everything that I do with that lens. So you've really inspired me and influenced my work in the last year and a half, and I've evolved in the content that I produce because of you calling out that it needs to be proven. You need to show the data behind it. And so thank you for doing that. And I really appreciate it. And I do feel it's progressed me forward more because I am being more thoughtful about what I print, what I share, what I promote. Because if you don't have, I mean, we all know about greenwashing, and without that proven data, I can't just, I'm posting stories about ethical makers and promoting someone saying, hey, I love this brand. And then you can start digging deeper and realize, okay, they say they're sustainable, but yet they're using horrible materials in their collections or whatnot. So anyway, it's a long, a long drawn out answer to your question, but I do have to say, like, you really influenced my work and shaped the way I do things today.
Well, thank you.
Always good to get the receipts.
Yeah.
That's right. And
Yeah.
you know what? Just to add one point to that, because this is going to come up in future episodes, because it's even about the role that I'm playing, that you guys are the fashion industry insiders. But as I did that night at the first event where I met you a year and a half ago, while I may have been a bit of a jerk, I was actually bringing my journalistic sensibility
Mhm.
to the table, which is I hear lots of nice words, right? But to
Yes.
persuade a smart enough but skeptical audience, that you had speakers saying, yes, we're doing this for sustainability and that for a
Mhm.
conscious fashion. And I said, it'd be nice if you presented some evidence. What kind? Concrete, credible, verifiable evidence that you present transparently, right? And so I pushed back gently, I thought, respectfully. But that's one thing that will come up throughout these episodes, and that's the role I'll happily play here. Is as we're talking about various issues, and companies are making claims, or governments are making claims, or individuals, that I'll have those eagle eyes as far as, well, are they providing any sort of credible evidence to support their claims or accusations, defenses, that sort of thing. And for all of you to know why this matters, I mean, not only for those of you who might want media publicity, earned media attention, and how to reach that standard of attracting, let's say, Women's Wear Daily. Okay, if you want a leading industry publication or mainstream publication, how to present your content in an evidence-driven way. But all of us need to prove our words. If you're approaching investors, donors, watchdog agencies, journalists, partners, consumers, clients, anyone, we should recognize that the standard will be very high to persuade a smart but skeptical audience.
Mhm.
But
So,
not only that, it's
yeah.
also about adding the critical thinking. So for any reports that a company may bring out, it's also about really scratching the surface to see, okay, like what is the evidence? Is it, because a lot of companies will bring out glossy reports, but it's really getting into the nitty-gritty of that to really understand how are they reporting it, what are they missing, what are they leaving out in the reports that can be very subtle or blatant, and really understanding the gaps that are missing.
Okay. So there you go. And by the way, this is a podcast that we will be publishing online. And besides us obviously making a pitch as all podcasters will do, if you like what you heard and like what you see, give us a like and that sort of thing. We really would encourage you to ask us questions or even to suggest topics that you might want to see us explore from our unique three-headed perspective, which will become clear to you as we move along, right? Whether it's sustainability, journalistic slash storytelling, that sort of thing. Okay, conscious fashion. So, any other comments from my colleagues here before we move forward?
No, I think we should dive into it.
Okay. That's it for today's episode of The Fashion Situation Room.
Thanks for spending time with us on the front lines of fashion.
If you found value in this conversation, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. It helps us bring more meaningful voices to the table.
And what call to action did you take? Let us know in the comments. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.